Hello, class. This is the directions for the first part of the studio prompt. Your studio prompt for transcription is you are going to craft a blank book by utilizing the bookmaking kit and paper collage techniques. For the paper collage, like the one you see on the right here, it doesn't have to look like anything. It's meant to be, it can be abstract. It's not the same as when you cut pictures out of magazines and glue them down and you have images. Though if you want to add a few of those, you could. But mainly you're going to be working with paper and just cutting and manipulating the paper to create your book covers and things. So the requirements you have both the exterior, which is the outside covers, and the interior, or the other side of the exterior cover, are decorated using paper collage. Your book is either bound by spiral or sewn together, and you use that interior page block that is in your kit. That does not mean you write on all those pages. No, just leaves them blank. But you need to use them inside your book. You can't just only put 3 pages in your book and toss the rest. All right? So the first part of your studio, and this will take you 2 days, are your exterior covers or the outside covers. So you have the materials you need is Mod Podge, which is the adhesive glue, or you could use Elmer's. Glue sticks do not work for this. You need the 2 cardboard covers that are in your kit. That's called substrate. And a variety of decorative papers. Begin with at least 3, and then you can get more if you need them as you work. For your tools, and if you're working only at home, you won't have access to some of these. That's okay. It won't count against you. If you are in school, then you will be able to use some of the more advanced tools. You need some scissors, plain scissors, and then if you have pinking scissors, you can use those as well. An X-Acto knife if you're face-to-face, I have those. A glue brush for the Mod Podge. Paper punches if you're face-to-face. Templates for shapes, or you could just trace things, circles, objects, some rulers, or you could just use the straight edge, and a pencil. So the first thing you do, you kind of collect your materials. In your book kit, you have got the 2 cardboard covers, and you can see they have little holes along their edges. You also have a black spiral binding and a set of interior pages. Just put the spiral binding and interior pages away for right now. You're not going to need those. You also need your Mod Podge and glue brush. You need at least 3 papers, scissors or X-Acto knife, and you need to write your name on one side of both cardboard covers in pencil, especially if you're at school, so we can keep track of whose is whose. If you're at home, you probably may not need to do that. If you're in school, we stay safe when we select the paper. You put on gloves. They are, medical gloves. People get up one at a time. You select your papers. You choose at least 3. You return to your area. You discard your gloves. To take off gloves correctly, you grab them at the bottom, pull them up your hand, and they turn inside out. And then you put them in the trash. I will give you other gloves if you need to go and get more paper later. So the foundation for your front exterior cover, what you start with is you take one of those 2 cardboard covers. You paint the whole thing with Mod Podge up to the holes. Don't paint over those holes. Just all the way over from the side there. All over. And then you glue a sheet of paper over the entire surface, and this is your background. Don't worry about cutting the paper to the right size right now. Line it up with the top and line it up with the side. Don't cover your holes and just glue it down. Press it so it glues flat. I make a fist and then use the side of my fist to rub it and to get out all the air bubbles and wrinkles. And then in a few minutes you can trim it with scissors or your X-Acto knife. So just flip it over. You can see where the cardboard stops and the paper starts, and that's where you would trim it. The next step is you're going to start adding layers. So you're working on both the front and back cover. Remember, just like when a real book is spread out, that the place with the holes is going to go in the middle, and then you have the two other sides. All right. Cut out your papers, play with them, and play with where you're going to place them down until you kind of figure out a basic foundation design. When you glue these down, put the Mod Podge on the surface of the paper, and then you put the paper you're adding on top, and then put more Mod Podge on top. So basically you put down the glue, then put down your paper, and then put glue on top of that. And the reason why is it laminates, which means it covers both and kind of presses them together. It makes everything sturdy and it makes it water resistant. And even though you can see the Mod Podge here, it does dry clear. And then after you have those basic things down, you can see I have that blue and white paper for my background on both pages. And then on this one, I have the big triangle and the pink kind of pattern paper. On this one, same paper as that triangle on the bottom, and then the other pattern paper on top. Look at it. Make sure that all of your cardboard up to where the holes are is covered. Make sure that your covers kind of look like they belong together. If you're using the same paper on both sides, it doesn't matter if your design is different. Like here you can see the designs are really different, but because the patterns and the colors are the same, they go together. What things do you like and what things do you want to change? And do you need to add paper, different paper, more paper? And I thought that I needed to add some plain black. So I cut out this piece and I added it there. Now, if you're at school, we have punches. If you're at home, if you have a regular hole punch, you could use it. If you don't have any punches, you don't have to use it. If somebody in the family did scrapbooking at one time, they might have some punches. But punches work the same way that a regular round hole punch works, except for they are fancier. They're metal and they're pressing. When you press them down, you have to press pretty hard. It helps if you stand up to press it down. And there's different designs on them. The designs are on the top. You can see on this one, it's kind of the scales or waves. And what you do, you insert a piece of paper into it, and then you press on it, and it will punch the paper out. The designs that fall out, the little parts, they could also be used. And then I have this cut out, and I cut it off, and I put it here. This one here is the insides, the part that came out when I pressed, of a different punch. And they're really nice because you can see through the areas that are cut and see the paper underneath them. You can create patterns and layers and solve design problems. You can see that I've started adding on to my design, not just with the punches, but over here I added a dark blue triangle and some black triangles, and then another piece of the pink paper. Pinking shears are scissors whose blades are not straight. They are decorative or jagged. You can cut your paper with them to create decorative lines and borders. Originally, they were invented for cutting cloth because if you cut fabric with jaggy scissors that don't cut straight, it doesn't fray. You won't have long strings. It's easier to sew. So to stay safe when you're using tools at school, bring the tool to your section. When you're finished, if you want to return it so somebody else can use it, bring the tool to the cleaning area so I can clean them. Before you guys get here, I wipe them down and disinfect them, both the punches and the scissors. And if you are going to use the same one for both days, you can keep it in your bin. And the reason why you wear gloves for paper and not tools, because lots of people are handling the paper and touching it to see the different designs, and you can't wash paper, but the tools are cleaned between people. So use your tools to add some interests. If you're at school, try to use at least 2 different punch tools and 1 pinking tool, pinking scissors, and add those papers to your covers, add interest, reveal layers, solve design issues, and remember to glue them down with Mod Podge on both the top and the bottom. That's really important when you have the punched out cuts because the designs are thin and they're kind of fragile and might peel up unless you seal both sides. And then you let it dry. In class, I'll come around and collect them and put them on the drying rack, and then I'll put them back in your bin or your spot for the next day. They're going to warp. That's okay. That's what happens when you have glue on cardboard. Don't worry about it because we're going to press them. After the exterior covers are done here at school, I will press them over until you're back in your next cohort to do the interior and the binding. If you're at home, you can press them, make sure they're super dry, and then simply set something heavy on them. Make sure they're on a flat surface, a floor, a table where they won't be bothered, and stack some books on them, or you could put them on a table and then, put a piece of paper on top or something, then put a cinder block or bricks or whatever you have. And that will straighten them out. Okay? After you are finished with your covers, then you're going to photograph them and upload them to Google Classroom. If you notice, I have also painted black over where the holes are for the binding, and you'll be able to do that as well. And then sealed the sides with paper tape. And you can use electrical tape for that. You could use masking tape. You could use washi tape. It's up to you. That's actually part of the next step though. All right. So for these 2 days, what you're doing is working with the tools and doing these covers. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am going to put up a video of me working on this. I just need to be able to film it with a camera and a microphone at the same time, but that'll get done.